Welcome back to the show. My name is Masi Kibe. In our previous episodes, we have been talking about parenting and leading on children. And we left at a very sensitive point whereby we were talking about parents who bring in children as pawns in a relationship or as trophies to be won. And today, before I just even kick on to the talk, because I'm so excited about this and I'm looking forward to what we're going to discuss, I'd like you to introduce yourself, what you do, so that our guests can be able to know what you're doing here and what you're talking about here, and then we'll pick it from there. I'll start with you, darling.
Okay, thank you, Mercy, for having me on the show.
Yes.
My name is Coach Rose D, and I'm so glad to be part of this forum. Looking forward to a healthy conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mercy, for hosting me. My name is Sarah Mbogo. I'm a mother of 2 children, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mercy, for having me here. My name is Josephine Wanjohi, also known as Coach Bumi. I'm a transformation life coach working with women and children. I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. This is a valid conversation.
Thank you so much, Josephine. And just so that we don't take so much time, because I know we need to talk about this. Last time we left it at whereby we are getting children being caught up in a place whereby now the parents are throwing words about them, they'll say above them or in between them, and we are having parents who are not able to separate their issues, and now where parenting comes in. So maybe I'll start with you, Dee. Just tell us, what do you think about the right conversation we should have in front of our children, and how do those conversations start turning to be toxic when they're being presented in front of our children?
Thank you, Mercy, for bringing this up. I think in our previous episode, if you can remember, I mentioned that we really need to be very careful on what we say in front of our children as parents, because they are not children anymore. You might see them as children, but they are picking what we are saying or what we are talking about. So we need to be very careful what we discuss when they are in when we are in front of them. And again, we need to be careful what words we tell to our children, because sometimes we could just be hurting, but let us be keen on what we tell our children. We talk about affirming them. Most of us, when we were growing up, we were not affirmed by our parents.
Yes.
And this should not be the history. This should not be the, how do we say, history repeating itself? That should not be the case. We need to start affirming our children as young as they are. We need to let them know that they are beautiful, they are strong, they are capable, and they are going to be better people in the society in the future. The moment a child grows having been affirmed and knowing this is who I am, it is better than when some of us grew up and, what you could hear was like, you want to be like your father who is like this and that, or you want to take off like your grandma who was like this. No. We need to stop that conversation, and we need to ensure that we are affirming our kids positively, not negatively, so that even as they grow with their self-esteem, already built up.
And growing, it's true what she's saying. We always had children who are like, usikue kama babako ama usikue kama mamako, or if there was a stupid child in the family, wewe ni mjinga kama mamako. Coach, I know you're so much into schools and children and parenting. Now, this issue of parents wanting to compare their children with so and so, it may be a peer or an age mate or a child attributing the character to that parent. What are the positive and the negative attributes that comes into play when we start comparing our children?
I feel that a comparison is negative. I think in all angles, it is negative, and most of the time, because we say people are differently abled, and so are our children. They are not the same, even within the family. Between 3 children or even 2 of your children, they are not the same. So comparison should not be a case to be entertained. But we were compared, as Rose D is saying. We were always compared, being like so and so, or don't be like so and so. The part of their family that I support, Rose D, is a child, training a child to be who they are, their true identity. and to also know who they are in the context of the we, so that they form an identity as early as possible. So for me, comparison is not good from all angles. But yes, it is also good to inspire a child in a way that does not make them feel like a lesser being. Yeah, because everybody has a potential that needs to be exploited. But our language is always, most of the time, for most of us, we have the right words. So we find ourselves like trying to repeat the same words that were used, even when you're trying to communicate something that is very good, we lack the words. So the language issue, the communication, I think we need to wake up to how we put, our words or our message across to our children.
Thank you so much, Coach, on that. Sarah, a mother, a salesperson, juggling between parenting and work. Sales can be a bit hectic. You need to move around. You have sales to make or targets to hit. So, in your aspect as a mom, because I know you're a detailed mom at that. So, how has this concept of you parenting and not being able to bring your, would I say, your work environment back to your children?
Yes. That's quite a very challenging place to be as a professional. Let me call myself a professional mother. Because then I have two obligations. I have work obligations and I have family obligations. Being a mother and being a person who is has to juggle the both worlds, I have to learn how to separate my issues. When it comes to work, I have to know that from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I have an obligation at my workplace. So whatever it is that I have picked it from there, I have to make sure that by the time I am leaving where I am to stepping into my house, I am wearing another set of shoes of being a mother. And when you get to a realization of having that in your mind, then for me, it has helped me to be able to, set in the roles as a parent and try to separate my issues or try to, if I had a bad day at work, definitely I am not carrying that day.
Has it ever happened? Have you ever carried the bad day?
A bad day to home? Yes, sometimes it happens. But you really have to learn to put those two things aside, because truth be told, if you carry your bad day home, it just means that you are separate. You're continuing with that trend of what can you call it? Makasiriko.
You're going to take
that to the children. The children really, honestly, they don't know what really happened with you, between you and your boss. They don't really understand. They just want you to be mom.
Yes, at home. They don't want the boss mom.
Yes, they don't want you to be bossy. The bossy mom.
But I think it happens. I think there's a way children pick this, and you think they cannot pick it. But I believe there's a way children will just come and understand today mom is not being mom. And how do we draw those boundaries now? Because Sarah has brought it in where that you need to understand that when you're from 8 to 5, you're professional. From 5 maybe to the next morning until you release your kids to school, you're mother. So how do you bring in the boundaries to that?
I think some of these kids, by the way, totally understand that you're not okay. And I think when in this setup, we want to bring ourselves to a scenario where we are not showing our kids that bad part of us, because we actually they need not to know. If you can agree, they need not to know our issues. And when we carry our bad days to the house, some in fact they like my daughter keeps asking me, Mom, what happened? Are you really okay? You left home, you're happy today? And then I must tell them I'm tired, because I don't want to explain what happened. And again, I don't want to bleed on them. Because the moment now I start, shouting at them, you just leave me alone, I'm just tired, The language, we have to choose it very wisely so that we don't make them carry our burdens. The moment you start bleeding on them, you're putting your baggage on them.
Yes.
And you can be sure they will not even concentrate the following day when they go to school. They'll be like, what happened to mom? What is wrong with mom?
Yes.
So as much as we are talking it here, we have to work on ourselves.
It has to be practical.
We have to work on ourselves and ensure that we are in the right, I keep saying it, right mental state.
Yes.
So that you can know that whatever I'm carrying from from my workplace,
yes,
I need to leave it at the door and not take it to the children.
Right mental state,
yes,
to understand that what we're doing to our children is not right. Right mental state. Now this brings in the aspect, can our children pick bleeding outside and bring it inside? You know, like, oh, who taught you that? That is not part of this household. Is that part of children picking some, would I say weird? I do like, we over to our happy. Yes.
When they are playing,
exactly.
They pick a lot.
Yes, Josephine.
Yeah, they can. Mostly because we are conditioning them.
Yeah.
When we have had a bad day and we come with our emotions at home and we lose control, they also like pick it, like when they have a hard time out there,
yes,
or
yes,
a bad day out there at school or wherever, they need to come and express themselves the best they know how, which is how they have seen us do it.
Yes.
Like Rose D is saying.
Yes.
So yes, it is just like a vicious cycle. They pick it, they play it out, and they bring it,
But what are the chances that a parent can shut their child from expressing these types of breeding? Because sometimes a child comes, let me just do a practical example. Your child has been going to school very well, and the next morning your child starts crying when they are going to school and they tell you they don't want to be part of that school. I know some of you have experienced that.
Let me tell you, that is like peer pressure. There's a school we visited. We usually do schools visits with Coach Bumi, and there's also one we visited with you.
Yes.
So us picking all this information from these teens is that they have a lot of peer pressure. They influence one another.
Yes.
Like you find you're starting to do the cuts that you're talking about the other day, and your best friend tends to think, it's fashion, and they start doing it.
Yes.
The same way this kid who doesn't want to go to school the following day must have picked it from maybe a friend that, I told my mom I don't want that school, and they got me out of school and they took me to another school. So this kid could be trying to pass the same message to you that I don't want to go to this school today. And even they might go ahead and tell you, you know what, that other school where the friend went to is better than the school that I am in.
But now that can be on teenagers, maybe kids or children who have started to do the self-discovery. But now we're talking about maybe these the little ones, the smaller ones. Yeah. Sometimes could it be like a sign of mistreatment, or could they be trying to communicate?
They could be passing a message. Maybe they also went to school and there's something that was done to them either by their colleague or the teacher, and maybe now they're trying to pass a message. And you find most of the parents, they will try to tell you go to school, they try to push you. But it is good to listen to these children. What are they trying to say?
I think Sarah is
yes, actually.
I need to do
yes, I need to say something. Yes, kids have interesting way of communicating, especially when you find kids are being bullied.
Yes.
On both ends, teachers or their peers. So they also understand that it's good to be in a safe environment. And when they're not in a safe environment, it's good to always pay attention. As parents, we really need to ensure that we are communicating with our children, because that's the only way you can be able to understand what they are going through. Find out with your children, how was your day? What did you do? Try and get that information. But if we are very busy and we leave it to the nannies and the housekeepers to take care of the children without them feeling as in their day-to-day, we would never know that. And probably that can also cause a very big harm to a child who's growing, because if they're being bullied and they can't be able to talk, they don't have an environment to talk about it, then you most definitely have a problematic child.
Because what I'm getting here, I know Coach is like, I want to talk, but I'm coming to you. I'm getting Sarah is saying, create an environment whereby you can be able to communicate.
Yes.
There is a transparent communication between you and your child, such that if anything happens to your child, you're the first person, the first safety net. Yes, Bumi. I'll call you by all names today. Just like Bumi. They have to know you by all these names.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I like what Sarah has raised here. And I was now trying to connect it with the fact that sometimes the reason a parent will try to dismiss a child is because they're trying to use their own script, how it was for them. Growing up, most of us were taught to just be hardy, just be tough out there.
Yes.
And of course, the times have changed. What we face is not what our children are facing. As you're saying, we need to be
the safe net,
that they come to. But that aspect, it is also part of the breeding, because you see, we never were like made to feel safe. So in a way, we want our children to go out there and fight their safety way, out there. So sometimes we dismiss them out of ignorance, and we are even unconscious that our old patterns are playing out.
And how do we start? Because I know you're sensitive on this. How do you tell yourself that I have crossed the line? I need to check myself as a parent, and I need to retract back and make that child understand that as a parent, I was wrong. It should not have been so. So how do you come back now?
It comes with working on yourself in terms of, one thing is that now we are so lucky, we are in the information age, we can access information. We have seen even across social media that the awareness is happening at a fast rate. And since most of us have access, we are exposed. Maybe sometimes we have even various channels, main media, mainstream media. They are having conversations all through, but still we struggle so much to open up to change. So we still have so many people who are not willing to open up and start like unlearning their own old, ways of doing things, our own old ways. How we were parented is not essentially the ideal way. So we need to start accepting or opening up to the possibility that I could be wrong with this approach. Or maybe it worked then, but it can't work now. So as much as possible, if we are going to help our children, then we need to just be open up to become our better versions, so that we can also now be able to study to step in the gap for our children.
I'm loving this, because every time we have a discussion, be it on breeding, be it on parenting, be it on alcohol, it all narrows down to self-actualization and self-awareness, such that if there's any change or impactful change that you need to make to a community, it must start with you. Change is you, change must be with you. And I hope you ladies carry the message out there. Our time is always limited. We want to keep on talking and talking. I'm so grateful you joined us today. Join the conversation on our YouTube channel, Transformation Arc Hub. My name is Mercy Kibet. Till next time, have a lovely time.
Bye.